And now Kamala Harris goes for the ultimate panic porn. Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, a lot to talk about today. I will definitely be getting to the bombshell story that I was teasing yesterday on X. By the way, you can all follow me on X. My handle there, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhn as in National ER. And as I pointed out, there is now irrefutable evidence that the Democrats have begun their stealing operation. Their operation now to steal the election has begun. They're in swing states like Arizona, and they are now in the process of trying to register voters to cast phantom votes, phantom ballots at phantom locations. So we're going to be getting into this. I promise it is of utmost importance. But before I get to the voter fraud and the election steal that the Democrats now are clearly, this is irrefutable now, are now attempting, Kamala Harris, and I'm choosing my words very, very carefully, is waging the most despicable, incendiary, and inflammatory election campaign in the history of the United States. She was in Pennsylvania recently. Tim Walz was in Wisconsin. And then yesterday, she went on the Breakfast Club with Charlemagne the God. And again and again and again, this is now her campaign. She's behind in the polls, especially in the battleground states. Her support is crumbling and collapsing. She is bleeding black voters, black men in particular. This is irrefutable again. The polls show it. Latino voters, Asian voters, working class voters, independent voters, young voters. And so, what is it now that she has to offer the American people? What is it now that she is offering her voters and her supporters? It is fear-mongering. It is hysteria. Honestly, it is panic porn on a level we have never, ever seen in the history of the United States. Kamala Harris, and remember, I played the cut yesterday in the 9 o'clock hour. I said, mark my words, they are going to twist and manipulate what Donald Trump said. And it's going to now be fear, fear, fear all the way until November 5th. Scare the living, and not forget scare, petrify, terrorize, frighten the American people to the point that you scare them to vote for Kamala. Kamala Harris is now saying that not only Trump will make himself a dictator on day one should he win the election, but it's even worse. She now says on November 5th, the day of the election, Trump will begin the process, listen now, of putting millions and millions of Democrats into internment camps. Let me repeat that. This is so despicable and disgusting. As I said on X, this woman is seriously sick. It's not just false. It's not just garbage. It is incredibly inflammatory that Donald Trump will start putting millions of Democrats into internment camps, that he will bring, quote unquote, fascism to America, that he will now use the military to target all of his opponents, including ordinary Democratic voters. When she said this in Pennsylvania, as I told Grace last night, please don't take my word for it. You've got to see the audio yourself. The crowd This is like COVID all over again. Scare them, frighten them, indoctrinate them, manipulate them. The crowd is like, literally, some of them were shaking, physically shaking, their knees trembling, their arms trembling, their eyes wide open. No, 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 no. People are yelling, screaming. I'm like, I'm sorry, this is beyond the pale. This is disgusting demagoguery. Absolutely revolting demagoguery. And don't take my word for it. It's hit after hit after hit after hit. It's now nonstop. And it's not just the Kamala campaign. CNN, to its everlasting shame. There was Jake Tapper, again, taking that clip of Donald Trump with Maria Bartiromo out of context. And then playing it and saying, he's going to go after the enemy within. He's going to unleash the military. This is a fascist. And then he plays a clip of Trump, which of course they distort deliberately. And then there's Jake Tapper putting up on the other side of the screen the basic definition of a fascist. And the implication is clear. Trump is a fascist. Trump will put millions of Americans into death camps, into internment camps. Trump will erect a military dictatorship. Forget on January 20th in 2025, should he win, the night of November 5. Listen now to Kamala Harris. She was on with Charlemagne Degad. Roll cut 11. Mike.
Donald Trump has been very clear that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. He has been very clear that he would take out the independent folks who are in there and put in there instead his loyalists. So understand, again, you talk about, because this brings back to exactly your point about threats to our democracy. Donald Trump would go into the Department of Justice and manipulate it in such a way that it would be used as a weapon against his political enemies.
So basically everything they've done to him and to conservatives and MAGA supporters, she's claiming, oh, no, Trump's going to do it to us. But no, listen, whoa, now they're escalating their rhetoric. This is because they've said this before, but now listen to this. No, journalists, judges, everybody, peaceful protesters, nobody's safe anymore in Trump's America should he win on November 5th. Again, this was Kamala just yesterday in an audio town hall with Charlemagne Degad. Roll cut 11A. Mike.
Yeah, he's going to lock y'all up if he gets back in office.
Well, by the way, you should look at his words. I don't think that you as a journalist should feel so
I know
sure
that.
100%.
I'm out of here.
Stop it right there. Stop it right there, Mike. Stop it right there. Listen, this is very important context. Charlemagne says to Kamala Harris, he's going to lock you all up. What he means is he's going to lock you up. He's going to lock Biden up. He's going to lock Obama up. He's going to lock Hillary up. He's going to lock every Democratic governor. He's going to lock up every Democratic member of Congress. So Charlemagne the God, these people are serious. You believe this garbage? Are you out of your freaking mind? And he's like, oh no, he's locking all of you up. Every Democrat politician, every Democrat governor, every Schumer's getting locked up. Elizabeth Warren's getting locked up. Everybody's getting locked up. And she says, no, hey, don't think it's just us, the politicians. No, Charlemagne, you're getting locked up. Everybody's getting locked up. Roll cut 11A. Play it from the start again. Please, Mike. Go.
Well, by the way, you should look at his words. I don't think that you as a journalist should feel so sure that
100%. I'm out of here.
Journalists, judges, others. And you know who does that? Dictators do that. Other countries do that, which is say that you're going to send, as he has, the military to go and suppress peaceful protesters. That happens in other countries. That's not supposed to happen in America.
So, and then, I don't know if you heard Charlemagne, but he's like, oh, yeah, I know that. Oh, I'm going to jail. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm going to jail. By the way, I don't believe him. I don't believe him. I'm telling you right now, I don't believe him. Does he really think he's going to jail? No. Does Kamala really think she's going to jail? No. Do they really think Trump's going to round up every Democrat judge, journalist, politician, millions and millions of Democrats and put them in bull? Again, you know what I want to say? BS. Now, let me tell you what's so dangerous about this. If they continue with this rhetoric, they are inciting another assassination attempt on Trump, and they're inciting mass political violence should he win in November. On the great WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Okay, desperation now for the Kamala campaign is now turning into, there's no other way to say it, pure fear and hatred. Listen now to Kamala. Again, this was on with Charlemagne the God, the Breakfast Club radio show, where she said, yes, Trump's vision is about, quote unquote, fascism and bringing fascism to America. Roll cut 15. Mike.
By voting in this election, you have two choices. Or you don't vote. But you have two choices if you do. And it's two very different visions for our nation. One mind that is about taking us forward and progress and investing in the American people, investing in their ambitions, dealing with their challenges. And the other, Donald Trump, is about taking us backward.
The other is about fascism. Why can't we just say it?
Yes, we can say that.
So there you go. There you go. And then a caller, now she said this in Pennsylvania. I'm going to play the cut just a little bit later, where she really, I mean, she petrified the entire audience, terrorized the audience. There's no other way to put it. You have to see there were old people there, young people. They were shaking. Their eyes were popping out of their skull. Their knees were trembling. A couple were crying. She says he's going to put all of you in internment camps. He's going to put millions and millions and millions of Democrats into ordinary Americans, Democrats who vote against him, into internment camps. And they're like, Okay, this is now what their campaign has been reduced to. The most reckless, irresponsible, crass, frankly disgusting and despicable demagoguery. There's just no other word for it. It is so un-American. It turns my stomach. Okay? But I'll play the cut. But before I do, because she's already gotten that, it's in the water now. So she said this now at a few rallies. Boom. Here is a caller into the show. It's not just Democrats and ordinary voters who vote against them, but now it's non-whites. He's a fascist. He's a Hitler. And he's going to put black people now, minorities, into concentration camps. Roll cut 14. Mike.
Hi, I'm Bobby from Georgia, and I have a question for Kamala Harris. Could you please respond to Trump's claim that he's going to use the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to round up immigrants if he wins the election? This law was last used to put Asian Americans in internment camps during World War II, and I have a sneaking suspicion that if Trump wins, he's going to use this law to put anyone that doesn't look white in camps, and I'm scared.
Yeah, so you've hit on a really important point and expressed it, I think, so well, which is he is achieving his intended effect to make you scared. He is running full time on a campaign that is about instilling fear, not about hope, not about optimism, not about the future, but about fear.
Oh my, I mean, you want to talk about the pot calling the kettle black. You want to talk about projection. The whole thing was one long fear-mongering infomercial for Kamala Harris. She's the one that's scaring the living daylights out of everybody. The caller, by the way, that idiot caller, he's going to use the Alien Enemies Act. Yes, against the drug cartels. That's the answer that he gave was, he said, yes, how are you going to break the drug cartels? How are you going to break the MS-13, these illegal criminal gangs that have now ensconced themselves, entrenched themselves in the United States? Tren de Aragua, however you pronounce it, that violent, vicious gang. He goes, no, we can break them. We'll just use the Alien Enemies Act, and boom, we can disrupt, we can deport them, we can smash them, we can arrest them. And from this, he's going to put all non-whites into internment camps. Yeah, that's what he's done. He's made us all afraid. No, you're making everybody afraid. And what you're doing, and this is what is the most disgusting, dangerous thing I've ever seen. I'm telling you, they are now paving the way. Her rhetoric, what she's saying now, this blatant demagoguery, is paving the way for mass political violence when Trump wins on November 5th. I'm sorry. Has everybody lost their minds? I'm looking around like, hello? Nobody can see this? If you're telling your side, you're all going to be thrown into concentration camps the moment this guy wins the election, you're going to tell me now they're going to accept the election results? You're going to tell me now they're not going to go to the streets? Or, as I said on X, what, you're not inciting now another assassination attempt? I mean, look, even if you go by the polls, most pollsters now say in the battleground states, Trump has a clear edge. So, if I'm some liberal whack job, and I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh my God, he's going to lock me up. He's going to lock all of us up. And he's going to win? This is not a dog whistle. This is a bullhorn. Take him out. Agree, disagree. I want to take all of your calls. The moment I come back from the break, is Kamala Harris sowing political violence? 632 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Many of you are pointing this out on the text line, 70470. So, Jeff, she's fear-mongering. This is what many of you are saying that Trump will erect a dictatorship and put millions now into internment camps. By the way, I guess now it's non-whites. Okay, and not fascism is coming, and non-whites, millions into internment camps. But Kamala keeps cackling. As she does these interviews, no, fascism is coming. You're all going to die. You're all going to be put in these death camps. But she just cackles and laughs. So, I mean, if she was actually semi-serious, who the hell laughs at the prospect of a Holocaust coming to the United States? This reeks of absolute desperation. This reeks of fear that they're going to lose. But my question to you, fear works. Fear-mongering and panic porn works. Scaring people works. Will this work? Is this the election ploy that can put Kamala over the top? You don't run on the future. You don't run on your record. You don't run on your policy agenda. What you run on is the other guy is Adolf Hitler, and he's coming for you and your family. Will that work? Or will the American people see through it? That is now the question, with 20 days left before Election Day. Suzanne in Lynn. You're going to kick us off, Suzanne. Thanks for holding, and welcome.
Thank you. Jeff, I think that didn't Hillary Clinton already say that about most of the people that think of Trump?
Yes.
She said that. She's trying to do that. She's already, Harris has already done that. She's not even an elected figure. She's an installed figure. So we are already set for that. They're setting that up so that they're going to do that. What she said that he's going to do to us is what she's going to do to us if we elect her.
Well, Suzanne, you hit the nail right on the head. Hillary Clinton, in an interview with CNN's Christiane Amanpour, said not only does she not regret calling all of us deplorables, she said a couple years ago, that's what I said, a couple of years ago, with CNN's Christiane Amanpour, she said, not only do I not regret calling, MAGA supporters a bunch of deplorables or irredeemable, and sexist and homophobic and racist, she goes, I'll be honest with you, they need to be put in re-education camps. They need to be, this was the word that she used, they need to be deprogrammed. Here's the cut. And I want you to hear it, Suzanne. This is what they say they want to do to us. What they're accusing Trump of is what they've openly said they need to do to us. Roll cut 32. Again, Hillary with Christiane Amanpour just a couple years ago. Roll cut 32. Mike.
So many of those extremists, those MAGA extremists, take their marching orders from Donald Trump. And when do they break with him? Because at some point, maybe there needs to be a formal deprogramming of the cult members, but something needs to happen.
And how do you do that? Because you said you have to defeat them by defeating their leader. Their leader is Donald Trump. Even you have said that you expect him to be the Republican nominee. How does this change at all?
At this point, I think, sadly, he will still likely be the nominee, and we have to defeat him.
Now, re-education camps or deprogramming is what they set up the gulags for in the old Soviet Union. It's what they set up, they do it in China now, to this day, in North Korea, in Cuba, in Venezuela. How could you be against the party? How could you be against Marxism, communism, socialism, progressivism? How could you be against that? There must be something mentally wrong with you. You see? And notice they use terms like sexism and homophobia and transphobia. And in other words, implying like you have a mental illness. You have a phobia. There's something wrong with you. How could you be against this? No. You're mentally ill. You need to be deprogrammed. And that gave birth to the gulags, to the slave labor camps. So, Suzanne, just to reinforce what you're saying, everything they're accusing Trump of now, they have openly said they want to do to us. Suzanne, the question I have for you, is this going to sway independent voters, undecided voters, people who still haven't made up their mind? Will this panic, porn, and fear-mongering work? The Democrats are banking that it will. What say you?
I think regular Americans or regular people or regular independents will take that information, and all they have to do is see what they did to the people from January 6th. They've already jailed them for 3.5, 4 years. They've already done it. So they're going to do the same thing to us again, as they did to the people that they accused of January 6th. They've already got political prisoners in jail.
That's a great point. That's an absolutely superb point. Suzanne, thank you very much for that call. Vince in Deutschland, in Germany, the home of Adolf Hitler. Vince, apparently the Fourth Reich is rising, my friend. And it will rise on November 5th when Trump wins. This is now what Kamala is saying in speech after speech, interview after interview. What say you, Vince?
Oh, yes, it's secreting out of Donald Trump's German roots. But what I wanted to say, Jeff, is if they're so worried about it, why are they passing DOD Directive 5240.01, which allows the military to use lethal force in support of law enforcement activities within the United States, basically eviscerating posse comitatus? Now, that was passed last month in September to little fanfare under the radar. Now, Jeff, I want to ask you this. Have you seen the latest Tucker interview with Mark Halperin?
I just read about it. I didn't see it. What stood out for you, Vince?
What stood out for me is Mark Halperin laid it out. He said that Donald Trump is winning in every swing state, and he predicts when Trump wins, you're going to see the biggest mental health crisis in American history. And he says it'll go beyond the election. It'll go beyond the inauguration. He's like predicting workplace violence, political violence, violence within families. He equates it to your wife coming home and telling you she's a lesbian and she's leaving you for her best friend. He said you will see violence at birthday parties. You will see violence at protests that'll turn into violence. He said it'll go on for the foreseeable future, and it will encompass tens of millions of these moon baths. And I don't even want to say white liberals, because that's what it is. These white, communist, indoctrinated leftists. That is what Obama has done to this nation. He has brainwashed an entire nation of people, and it's the minorities that aren't buying it anymore, Jeff. It's the minorities. It's the Hispanic men. It's the black men. And now it's the black women. And that's why Barack Obama is in full panic mode. That's why Hillary Clinton is saying that they need to outlaw the First Amendment. That's why you hear John Kerry saying you must outlaw the First Amendment. That's why you hear, what's that knucklehead that used to be on ESPN and MSNBC?
Oh, Keith Olbermann. Yeah, Keith Olbermann.
Keith Olbermann. Keith Olbermann says we need to deport Elon Musk and get him the hell out of our country. That's what's coming, Jeff, on November 5th.
Vince, I got to tell you, I want to congratulate you and thank you for your courage, because that's my fear. That's why I'm calling Kamala out and the Democrats and the media right now, because this is going to have very dangerous mid to long-term implications for our country. Look, just stand back for a second, okay? To be fair, we have to be fair to our fellow citizens. And by the way, Vince, you're 1,000% correct. If all you do, and there are many, I know many people like this, if all you do is get your information from CNN or the mainstream media or MSNBC or whatever, well, look at it from their point of view. They really believe this. So they're saying, why would my fellow citizens vote for someone who wants to put me in an internment camp? He wants to bring fascism to America. He wants to put all non-whites into concentration camps. So they're going to look at you and they're going to look at me and they're going to say, my God, all that's missing is the swastika. That's what they're inciting. That's why they're not going to accept the results on November 5th. I'm telling you, that's what that's the groundwork now that they're laying. This is not going to end well. I'm telling you. More next. Those are 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. The phone lines are lighting up like a Christmas tree. 617-266-6868. You can also text us 70470. And as always, you can message the Kuhner Man on Messenger. And this is an absolute doozy from Marianne. Jeff, good morning. When did Charlemagne the God become a journalist? Isn't he an entertainer? That's a good point. People tend to lie when they're desperate. And the lies coming out of Kamala's mouth show extreme desperation. For some of the crimes her party has committed, they should be in jail already. And they are now doing everything in their power to make sure Trump is gone. And it doesn't matter how they accomplish it. And this is scary because everything she is saying that he will do, they have already done or are planning to do themselves. The problem we have, the real problem, is that people actually believe this fabricated rhetoric that she's spewing. Bingo. Bingo. Marianne, If your mother didn't tell you, I'm telling you, you're a freaking genius. You're a genius. And Marianne continues. That's the real issue. Low information voters, which we know Democrats are, believe anything. And she knows that. As I said, she is extremely desperate because she knows she sees the polls. Bingo. Bingo. She summed it up brilliantly. Again, I know I keep repeating myself. Best audience in the business. I'm telling you, there's no audience better than this audience. Okay? I'm telling you. Now, just very quickly, because the lines are jammed, I want to go right back to the phone lines. 2 super quick points. This is my worry. This is what I worry about. Number one, what Marianne touched on. Many Democrats are low information voters. They get their information from only 1 or 2 sources, and they're like zombies. They're like sheeple. You know it. I know it. Look, I have friends. I have people in my family. I know exactly. We all know it. It comes out of her mouth. It then comes out of their mouth. And so when they start saying Trump's going to put people in by the millions into internment camps on the night of the election, I'm thinking, well, how could he even do it on the night of the election? He won't be inaugurated until January 20th of the next year. You know, they act like he wins the election and suddenly he controls the government, the military, everything. I'm like, no, there's a 3-month lag. But anyway, okay, but just let that go. Okay, let that go. That's a minor detail. I'm worried of potential violence. I'm seriously worried now that they're going to unleash violence the night of the election, or God forbid, against Donald Trump, another assassination attempt. That's my fear. Now, my other fear, and I'm going to get to this later in the show, I think they're doing it for 2 reasons. 1, to delegitimize Trump, to frighten and fearmonger the American people into voting for Kamala, and to lay the groundwork clearly for mass political violence. I think now there's no question. This is so reckless and so irresponsible. It's unbelievable. It's beyond criminal. It's dangerous. They're yelling fire in a crowded theater. That's what she's doing now, and the media again and again and again. But I think it's also aimed at something else. And I'm going to get to this later in the show, I promise. They're starting now to cheat. They've been caught in Arizona. They have phantom voters registered at many of these addresses that are commercial businesses, gas stations, strip clubs, high schools, restaurants, to cast phantom ballots. And they're using this fear-mongering of Hitler to justify stealing the election. Well, now we have to steal it. We have to. And like to their listeners, to their supporters, wink, wink. We have to steal this election because Hitler is coming to power. So I think the rhetoric serves several purposes. Just my opinion. Agree, disagree. John in the great state of Texas. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Here's
Hi,
one. This is perfect for the show right now. God told me to call you. Here's one that slipped the news cracks. The DOD just modified Directive 5240.01 and just threw posse comitatus out the window. On September the 27th, it was modified to now allow the use of lethal force against Americans on U.S. soil. That's 18 U.S. Code 1385 in that document. You can Google, you can look it up straight from the DOD .gov website. It's 5240.01, and let me just break down what those changes say. It says, subject to paragraph 3.1, defense intelligence components may provide personnel to assist in a federal department or agency including a federal law enforcement agency or a state or law enforcement agency, when lives are in danger in response to a request for such assistance approved by the, who do you think? Secretary of Defense. The Secretary of Defense may approve any type of requested permissible assistance described in paragraph 3.2. It goes on and on and on. Posse Comitatus is gone, and this happened right before the election. I wonder why. And why isn't the media reporting this? It's right in front of our eyes. Nobody has seen this.
Unbelievable. John, I got to tell you, I mean, this is what I mean. We're living in very scary times. They don't want to relinquish power. They are petrified of relinquishing power. And they're willing to do anything now. Anything to prevent Trump from winning on November 5th. I've never seen anything like this, ever in the history of the United States. I've never seen this. And John, look, this is what I can't wrap my mind around. Okay. I know it's a little bit off of what you're talking about, just slightly. Now, conservatives in the media, whether it's Newsmax, whether it's some of these conservative hosts on Fox News, frankly, even the Trump campaign, they just roll their eyes. Like this is what Kamala's spewing, speech after speech, interview after interview, and Tim Walz, I'm going to show, he's scaring the students up at the University of Wisconsin. He had them in tears yesterday. They were crying because he said Trump's going to lock all of you up. He's pointing to them. He says he's going to lock all of you up, and they believe this guy. And they're just rolling their eyes. And they make faces, and they're like shaking their heads, and they're like, oh, geez, they really shouldn't be doing this. This is really, this is beyond the pale. I'm like, how about you ferociously condemn this? How about you ferociously call her out? How about you shame her and eviscerate her for saying this? Saying this, you have no business fear-mongering and frightening and terrorizing people like this. Like, I'm sorry, you've just disqualified yourself from being president of the United States. Instead, they're just assuming, John, that the American people are going to see right through this, that the low-information voters are going to laugh at this, that everybody's just going to be going tisk, tisk, tisk. Kamala, and wag their finger at her. Kamala, you're misbehaving now. I'm like, they're going to fearmonger their way into the White House. And when conservatives come out and say, my God, they just stole the election because they're pulling off now a lot of the same shenanigans they were doing in 2020, and you have protests, here we go, you can unleash the military on the American people. Like, John, I don't understand. There's this complacency on our side among Republicans, among conservatives in the media, outside of Trump himself, many even within the Trump campaign. Can you explain this to me, John? It's like we're sleepwalking toward this. Can you imagine if Trump came out and said, in speech after speech, Kamala wins, she's putting all of you, millions of you, all of you in internment camps. You know, fascism is coming to America. You know that. She's going to lock up all you journalists, all you conservative judges, everybody's going to get locked up. The media would be destroying him, saying, what's your evidence for this? How could you be saying this? You're pouring gasoline on the fire. You're literally threatening social stability and inciting violence by espousing these naked demagogic lies. Instead, our side is like, well, that's just what Democrats do. Da-da-da, da-da-da. John, am I wrong?
At all. Directive 5240.01 DOD. You guys need to bring it out in the light, please. That's all we got.
John, God bless you and thank you, my friend. 617-266-6868. Okay, here it is. This is where she started to have people literally shaking, trembling. A couple of old ladies were crying. I'm not kidding. A couple of young people, they were like college students or whatever, were tearing up. They were trembling. This is Kamala Harris saying Trump is coming for all of you. He wins on November 5th. Get ready, because you're all being sent to internment camps. Roll cut 29. This is in Philadelphia. Roll cut 29. Mike.
He's talking about the enemy within our country, Pennsylvania. He's talking about that he considers anyone who doesn't support him or who will not bend to his will an enemy of our country. It's a serious issue. He is saying that he would use the military to go after them. Think about this.
That he's going to unleash the military to round up millions of Americans simply for opposing him or voting against him. Now, this was her in Pennsylvania. This was Tiananmen Tim, Tampon Tim Waltz. This was in Wisconsin at a university. This was Tiananmen. And some of the kids started to cry. Roll cut 31. Mike.
He crossed a line that I have to tell you, in my lifetime, I would have never imagined, because we know our history. Donald Trump over the weekend was talking about using the U.S. Army against people who disagree with him. Just so you're clear about that, that's you. That's what he's talking about. This is not some mythical thing out there. He called it the enemy within. And to Donald Trump, anybody who doesn't agree with him is the enemy. I tell you that not to make you fearful or anything. I tell you that because we need to whip his butt and put this guy behind us.
And the crowd just goes crazy. I mean, they just go nuts. Right, but some of the students are like crying, like, oh my God, he's going to put us in jail the moment he wins. Ah! Of course this is going to pit family against family. What Vince was saying earlier, one of the callers, when referencing, by the way, Mark Halperin is a liberal. So he's a political analyst. He's a liberal, but, he tries to be more of an objective analyst. He just wants to, gauge the situation and handicap it correctly. And he says, no, the fear that they're instilling now, the panic, the derangement, the paranoia, the mass paranoia that they are now instilling on the Democratic side and among tens and tens and tens and tens of millions of their voters. He goes, if Trump wins, you think that just stops? So you better believe it. It's gonna, birthday parties are gonna be affected. Thanksgiving dinner. Oh my God. Christmas. People are going to go nuts because they're convinced, oh my God, a dictatorship is coming. And how could you vote for a man that's going to put us in an internment camp? Like that's how they're going to be brainwashing and indoctrinating people. This is sickening. And it needs nothing deserves a more forceful, sweeping condemnation and rebuttal than this. And yet, where's Mike Johnson? Where is he? House Speaker, where is he? Where's Mitch the Squish McConnell? Where's Trump's campaign surrogates? He's fighting back, yes, but the people around him, where are they? Where's Lindsey Graham now with his big mouth when you need him? I can go on and on. Where's Fox News? All of Fox News. Have you noticed, by the way, they have not mentioned the plagiarism scandal engulfing Kamala. Why? Because everything now has to be subservient to Brett Boring with his stupid interview with her today. Because you see, Fox wants the credibility in the eyes of the establishment media. Kamala came to our network. She doesn't just go to This is CNN or ABC News or CBS or MSDNC. No, hey, she comes over to us, Fox. Because Paul Rhino Ryan wants Trump to lose. He heads the board at Fox. The Murdoch sons want Trump to lose. So the Rhino Never Trumpers who essentially run Fox News, you're not going to mention this. No way. We give it, hey, toe the corporate line. You want to keep making your $25 million a year? You want to keep making your 25 mil? Shut up and do what we tell you to do. So keep talking about crime. That's all they talk about is crime. Crime, 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 crime. That's all they talk about. And how Kamala hasn't done a press conference in 90 days. That's it. No press conference in 90 days and crime, crime, crime. There, I've just given you Fox News. So this needs the most forceful, vigorous, frankly outraged condemnation and pushback, and instead nothing. Nothing. Now, what has caused all of this? What is it that Trump said? What was his great sin? What did he do that was so wrong? What did he say that has caused them all to be in such a panic? Their hair is on fire. On Sunday, he was on with Maria Bartiromo. Please listen to the first few seconds of the cut. I'm going to play you the whole cut, with the full context, because the media is taking it out of context. I'm going to play you the full 43 seconds. They're only playing 20 seconds of it because they have to distort what Trump said in order to smear and libel and defame him. She asks him about Joe Biden's comments that there will be violence on election night. Joe Biden came out and said repeatedly, oh, no, Trump won't accept the results. MAGA's going to go to the streets. It's going to be another insurrection. So Joe Biden is saying that when Trump loses in November to Kamala Harris, we are going to pick up a gun and we're going to go to the streets. Trump is saying, no, our people don't do that, but more, I'm worried about them. And what he's worried about in particular is a report from Portland that the Portland police now are going to be out in force because Antifa says they're going to burn Portland to the ground should Trump win on November 5th. Seattle now, same thing. In other words, we're going to see a repeat of the summer of 2020. Okay, the George Floyd riots. Antifa and Black Lives Matter. So Trump is telling Maria, hey, look, if the left, the radical left, the enemy within, Antifa, BLM, those that call for the revolutionary overthrow of our government, that's what they're calling for. That's why they're the radical left and the enemy from within. If they take to the streets and start rioting and looting and burning, he says, well, then the National Guard's going to have to take care of it. And if need be, call in the military. Now, he's not saying, I'm going to call in the military or I'm going to call the National Guard. He's saying, that's what you need to do on election night. You're going to have no choice. We can't have a repeat of 2020. Now, he's 1,000% correct. But he mentioned military and enemy within. And they've taken out all the context to literally invert the meaning of what he said. This is propaganda out of 1984, straight out of Orwell's 1984. Listen now to the full context, the full clip. Roll cut Trump, Fox News, Maria Bartiromo. Roll cut 30, Mike.
What are you expecting? Joe Biden said he doesn't think it's going to be a peaceful election day.
Well, he doesn't have any idea what's happening in all fairness. He spends most of his day sleeping. I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, not even the people that have come in and destroying our country. By the way, totally destroying our country. The towns, the villages, they're being inundated. But I don't think they're the problem in terms of election day. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military, because they can't let that happen.
Meaning there can't be any violence on election day. In other words, you can't let them, riot and loot and plunder and kill and murder and maim, which is what Joe Biden said we're going to do on election night if we lose, if our side loses. Now, from this, from this. He's coming after you. All of you. You're the enemy within, Tim Walz is telling the students in Wisconsin. Kamala Harris, to all of her supporters, he's going to round all of you up into internment camps. Millions and millions and millions and millions. Do you see how dangerous they are? Do you see, I'm sorry, how sickening and despicable they are? How desperate they are? What a bunch of liars. What a bunch of bull, you know what, BSers they are. They're willing to torch our country, take a blowtorch, and burn the country down if need be, should Trump win on election night. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. I've never seen such crass, brazen propaganda, lying, fear-mongering. I thought the COVID lockdowns were bad, but this is a different level. You know what this says to me? Trump is leading in the polls, and they fear he's going to win. Oh, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, it's the Kuhner Country poll question of the day. Sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Do you believe Trump will jail his political opponents? Kamala is saying yes. Tim Walz, CNN, all of them. The New York Times, it's an echo chamber. The Boston Globe, it just goes on and on now. That's all you're going to be hearing for the next 20 days. Do you believe he is going to put millions of Democrats, millions, people who voted against him, people who disagree with him, his political opponents, journalists, judges, members of Congress, I guess all of Congress, Democratic governors, they're all going to be put into internment camps because that's not what they're claiming. A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. You can also vote via X, very active on X. My handle there at the Kuhner Report, all one word, Kuhn as in national ER. To me, I think the answer is obviously B. I think if you believe A, honestly, I think you're mentally ill. Like, seriously. Either you're incredibly stupid. I'm talking the lowest of the low information voters. Or there's something seriously psychiatrically wrong with you. You need to be institutionalized. Okay? But that's, by the way, he was already president for one term. Like, just to remind these liberals. Nobody went to jail. Nobody. Nobody was even charged. Not one political opponent or journalist or judge wasn't even charged. But forget that. It's millions. It's Hitler. It's the Fourth Reich. 617-266-6868. Larry in Leominster. Thanks for holding, Larry, and welcome.
Geez, Jeff, I was already going to vote for the guy. No need to get me even more excited. So, are these internment camps, are they hiring? Who do I submit my resume to?
Larry, I take it you think most people are going to see through this and just laugh at it, correct?
Well, yes, and I do agree with you on the point is that the Trump campaigns, their operatives, Lindsey Graham should make himself useful for once. Should be it's hard to counter a negative. It's hard to do a counterfactual on a negative. No, he's not going to do this type thing. But let's put some logic into this. Millions of people in internment camps. Who's going to watch them? Who's going to do this to round up all these people?
Well, what they're saying, Larry, is that he's going to unleash the military.
Yeah, but the military accounts for less than 3% of the population. And they're scattered all over the world, fighting in Joe Biden's crap. Again, who's going to do it? This is the logic they got to present. And I know you say it, the title, because you need your audience to know who this schmuck is. I refuse to call Charlemagne anything but goon. To the arrogance of this guy to put God in his title. And I'm just like, I don't think it's not, he's selling out his own kind. And to be blunt about it, because the black population, the black men, are running from her in droves. And he's just a younger, dumber version of Obama trying to convince these people to vote for her. And you're right.
And Larry, and that was the point of her being on the show, was on his show, right? Was to try to convince black voters to, not to abandon her, and especially black men. And notice, what was her appeal? Her appeal was two things. I mean, Grace is going to come on at 9:00. She's got a great column on Kamala's pathetic attempt to, woo the black vote, and especially black men. Her appeal is, I'm going to legalize marijuana across the whole country. So basically she's saying that black men are all a bunch of stoners. That's what she's really saying. No, you guys are all a bunch of stoners, and all you want to do is get high all day. So it's one, legalize marijuana, and two, Hitler's coming to town, and he's going to put all of you in death camps. That's your appeal? And I'm going to play some cuts. Larry, I don't know if you saw him in Chicago at the Economic Club, where he went toe-to-toe with the editor-in-chief of Bloomberg. I mean, Trump was magnificent. It was incredible. One of his best performances ever. And he laid out this positive, optimistic governing vision for not just blacks, obviously for blacks, but for Latinos, whites, men, women, Americans, on taxes, deregulation, tariffs, manufacturing, improving people's wages, getting their incomes higher. It was a masterclass. It was incredible. So he's literally telling people how I'm going to uplift everybody and get this country turned around. And she's going on and on that, you get him, you're getting the Fourth Reich. You couldn't see a contrast between two leaders and two campaigns. And I think, Larry, this is why she's such a horrible candidate. She is so bad. She has nothing to offer except fear, hatred, and paranoia. Larry, please hang on. I want to get right back to you and take all of your calls. 617-266-6868. Will this new fear-mongering campaign work, or will it blow up in the Democrats' face? 732 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Let's go right back to Larry in Leominster. Larry, in the end, Kamala's essentially saying, vote for me, or Trump's going to put all of you into an internment camp. That's now what her message has been reduced to. Okay? Larry, is this a winning message?
So, Jeff, it's safe to assume that the joy campaign's over?
Yeah, the joy and the vibes, they're all gone now, Larry.
Yeah, so much for Brat Summer, I guess. Okay, so let's jump in the Wayback Machine and go back to 8 years, you and I, to election night 2016. We're all at the Hard Rock Cafe. Everybody and their brother was telling us there was no chance in hell Trump would win. What was it they were saying? It was like 95% chance he's going to lose that night. What was the overall mood in that place?
Oh, it was jubilant. It was incredible.
Right? We were told, bombarded, there's no way, the polls show it, there's no way. And we were all having fun, we're all excited, we're all hyped up. And yet, them are being told similar, which in reality is the actual reality to it. It's not the hyperbolic, press making up stuff. She's really in trouble. The joy's gone. Now it's all fear and loathing. And that's all they got. And I don't think they're going to get, at this point in the game, Jeff, there's not that many people they're going to turn. All she's doing is inflaming the base. And you're right. Everyone who's listening to this show needs to be prepared from January 6th to Inauguration Day. It's going to get nasty in this country. There's just no two ways about it. But is this going to change people to where they can win? No, not this late in the game. All she is doing is convincing her side that they're right to vote for her. They're not going to flip any independents with this crap. You keep referring to low information voters, really not independents. The independents, in my opinion, tend to investigate each candidate more than the left or the right, because we already know what's in our camp and what we want. They're the ones doing the balancing act, so they look more into it. So they're not exactly, I couldn't call them a low information voter because they do some investigating.
That's a great point. No, that's a really, really good point. Look, Larry, as always, thank you very much. Very thoughtful call. 617-266-6868. So Larry's saying, look, this is just going to, it's inflaming their base. There's no question. I mean, it's petrifying. It's traumatizing their base. That's what they're doing now. I mean, they're terrorizing their base. Is it going to change or move the needle? Larry says no. What say you? Frank in Bedford. Thanks for holding, Frank, and welcome.
All right, I'd like to say Sandy and them, they know I'm working. I used to work on the military base for 30 years. I got my own company. About 14 years ago, I asked that question. Hey, guys, have you heard about signing this paperwork to kill Americans? They're young. They said, yeah. I said, what the hell's going on? So, I had breakfast with them and dinner over years. You're young. I said, are you aware about the Constitution? He goes, what's that, sir? Doesn't matter what they say. You're supposed to protect us. He says, yeah, I'm right. And they're looking at me. What the hell's going on? Now, this is my scenario. BlackRock is filthy rich. BlackRock knows that there is NATO equipment on American soil. What is going to stop them to get suits and get into these vehicles and start going around creating chaos? These people got a ton of money, ton of connections, and that's my theory. And these kids, half of them will back them because they're uneducated. My opinion would be, all you people out across the United States, ask that question and see if they know their rights. Because if they don't, and they start a war overseas, and we got part of our military here that are brain dead, we have no protection. They have the technology and the drones to wipe us out. I would take this highly seriously after hearing BlackRock in the already going down south.
Well, Frank, look, and thank you very much for that call, Frank. Look, this is the problem. This is why they don't teach civics. This is why they don't teach American history. Or if they do teach American history, it's about how bad America is and how we should all be ashamed to be American. The reason is they don't want young people in particular. They don't want Americans to know about the Constitution, to know about the Bill of Rights, to know about their fundamental God-given rights that come from God, not from the government. So that's part of the dumbing down of the American people and the American population. To me, look, I can't stand BlackRock. I don't carry any water for them. I've exposed what they're doing in North Carolina and what they're doing around the country and around the world. If there's going to be violence, and I hope there isn't, I pray there isn't, but I think what Trump is talking about, I think Trump is dead on. It's not BlackRock for all the problems BlackRock causes. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's staring us in the face. It's Antifa. It's Black Lives Matter. It's the radical left, who are funded, by the way, by George Soros, by Act Blue, by the Democratic Party. They're the ones who are bankrolling these, left-wing thugs and terrorists and domestic hate groups. So to me, if there's going to be any rioting on election night, as Trump was talking about with Maria Bartiromo, it's not going to be because BlackRock has picked up a NATO weapon. They did it in Portland. They did it in Seattle. They did it in Kenosha. They did it in Boston, in Atlanta, in Dallas, in LA. They did it they did it in Washington, D.C. They laid siege to the White House. Everybody forgets that. Trump had to be put into a bunker in the summer of 2020 because they literally tried to overtake the White House. People forget about that. So if there's going to be violence on the streets, I hope there isn't, but if, it's coming from Antifa, from Black Lives Matter, and from radical left-wing terrorist groups. As Trump said, the enemy within. That's what I fear on election night. And to be honest, look, let's not beat around the bush. That's who Kamala is inciting. She's not inciting a 65-year-old grandmother to go to the streets and take out Donald Trump or to riot. She's inciting BLM and Antifa. Remember, Antifa lives to fight so-called fascism. Well, she's now waving the bloody rag right in front of their face. You want a fascist? Trump. You want Hitler? Trump. You want the guy that's going to put all you in internment camps? Trump. So Antifa is listening to this, and they're obviously getting ready. They've been waiting for this moment now for 4 years. She is deliberately inflaming them to go to the streets, or if need be, to go and take Trump out before the election. That's what this is all about. That's why I say this kind of rhetoric is explosive. It's dangerous. It's reckless. It's negligent. It's criminal. It's yelling fire in a crowded theater. That's what she's doing. And the theater is full of Antifa and Black Lives Matter thugs. 617-266-6868. Aaron in Idaho. Thanks for holding, Aaron, and welcome.
Great callers. Stole some of my thunder. I have 3 points and then a prediction. Well, first of all, the enemy within, Trump was probably quoting the great Michael Savage. Hello, infidels. First, I completely agree with you. Why don't the Republicans go full-scale panic porn? Democrats want to take your gas-powered car away. They want to ban red meat, make you eat bugs, ban free speech, have CPS take your children away. Republicans, hire me, and I will make attack ads for you. Second, how come it's always Hitler? Hitler, Hitler, Hitler. No one ever says, you're a Pol Pot, you're a Stalin. Why? Because we never memorialized the Cold War, except for James Bond and Rocky IV. Most kids think the Cold War was fiction. They're like, wait, the Cold War was real? Yeah, it actually happened. But every year Hollywood makes World War II movies. Hell, last year the number 1 movie was Oppenheimer. We need conservatives like Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro started a movie studio. We got to make movies about the Cold War. Jeff, call Ben Shapiro. Say, hey, make a movie about my family in Croatia. Just a suggestion. Third point. Let me ask you a question. Did the panic...
Aaron, can you hang on that third point? We're up against the break. We're going to take Aaron. I think I know where he's going with this. How did they frighten people during COVID? And are they now using the same playbook again? 7:49, actually almost 7:50 now on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare. Let's go right back to Aaron in the great state of Idaho. Aaron, we got interrupted by the break. Please pick up where we left off.
Well, you were asking, will this panic porn work? Well, let me answer your question with a question. Did the panic porn work with COVID? Yes. Did it work with Roe v. Wade with the midterm elections? Yes. Remember the October surprise of 2022? Some homeless bum attacked Nancy Pelosi's husband, and the media lied saying he was MAGA, it was MAGA. The guy was a member of the Green Party. He was a socialist. But they lied saying it was MAGA. It was enough to scare him, and the red wave didn't happen. Which is why you're right. The Republicans could be sleepwalking their way into defeat, which is what Trump must say. If you are a U.S. citizen and not a drug dealer, I'm not deporting you. I'm not the one who wants to put you in re-education camps. The Democrats are. He needs to do that. Now, here is my prediction in case I can't contact you before the election. I remember, Jeff, I called you 3 times in 2022 and had a bad feeling about the red wave. I said in 2020, if mail-in ballots are determined, we can't win. So here is my prediction. The Republicans will win the Senate. However, there's going to be a blue mirage. It'll be a reverse of 2020. Remember they said there was the red mirage? It's going to be the other way around. Republicans are voting early this time, which tells me Democrats are going to vote on Election Day. The liberal news media, they're going to call every state that Harris wins. Like at the stroke of 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, they will project Harris the winner, even with 0% of the votes reporting in, just as they did to your friend Deal. But every state Trump wins, they'll say, oh, it's too close to call, it's too soon, and they won't call it. And before you say me that's crazy, they did that in the 2000 election. It was the media's fault for the confusion. They called the state of Florida for Al Gore when 1/3 of the state was still voting. They called Florida for Gore when the Panhandle voted for Bush. That's why they had to take it back. And they do this all the time. When a Democrat wins, boom, call it at 7 o'clock. But they will hold the red states. They will wait hours to call those. So it will look like Kamala's got a 100 electoral college vote lead, like an SEC college football game. And they'll tell them, concede, concede. Trump, you're an election denier. If you don't concede right now. Harris has too big of a lead on you. You need to tell Trump, no matter what happens on election night, do not concede until 100% of the votes are in. That is going to be their Hail Mary to steal the election. They'll have Harris look like she's beating Trump big time. Like I said, like a college football game. Don't fall for it. Wait for the mail-in ballots to get in. A lot of Republicans, even here in Idaho, they've already voted. We're not going to wait till Election Day again because we saw what happened in Arizona where the voting machines didn't work. We're not falling for that again. We're voting early, but mail-in ballots are usually counted last. So there could be a blue mirage. Mark it. I said it today. October 16th, I called it. So an election night...
Aaron, I got to ask you, because, look, you've been a long-time caller, frankly, a very entertaining and obviously intelligent and informed caller. And you've been very often right in your predictions. So I have to say, almost 1,000. And the only reason why I'm qualifying it is I can't think of one that you got wrong, but we're all humans, so people get things wrong. So that's why I say almost 1,000. When everything is said and done, when the dust settles, does Trump win or does he lose?
It's by a squeaker. And I don't want to jinx him because I did horrible on my NFL picks on Sunday, so I don't want to jinx him. It's going to come down. I will say this. It's really going to come down to Pennsylvania and Georgia because here's the thing. Did you know that if Trump wins Pennsylvania and Georgia, he could still lose Nevada and still get to 270. Now, if he takes Nevada and Arizona and wins Michigan, especially if the Muslims stay home, as they vowed to, he could afford to lose Pennsylvania. Now, I was just in Nevada. It was in Las Vegas. There were Trump ads everywhere, and all the ads said were no tax on tips. Straight to the point. That's why he's leading in the polls in Nevada. So he's got a good chance at getting Nevada and Arizona back, but I'm scared to death of Pennsylvania.
I got you.
Again, the Democrats,
Well, they got a machine out there. No, I hear you. So Aaron is cautiously optimistic. Let's put it that way. Doesn't want to jinx him by saying he's going to win, but he's saying it's looking good for Trump. Fingers crossed. Aaron, Thank you very, very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just very quickly. This is from 603. Okay, Jeff. And this is a doozy. Absolutely brilliant, brilliant text. This latest narrative, Kamala and the left are floating, that claiming Trump will arrest his political opponents and jail all Democrats, put millions of them into internment camps, has two basic aims. One, it gets the Democrat voter base who will believe anything the party says, all whipped up into a frantic panic by preying on their fears. And two, they aim to provide themselves cover because these Democrat politicians and their cronies know how many crimes they've committed and just how many of them could be facing serious time in prison for those crimes if indicted and convicted. So they float the idea that it's for political reasons and not because they're actually guilty of the crimes they've committed. And that'll intimidate Trump into leaving them alone should he win. It's like installing a firewall of protection to hide behind. In other words, it's all about ascribing a false motive. Now, that's a brilliant point. That is one hell of a brilliant point. When Trump does start to prosecute, say, the Hunter Bidens of this world, just to give you a blatant example, they're going to say, you see, we told you. He's going to put all political opponents in jail. Here comes the fascism. That's why, another reason why they're putting it out there, on top of the panic porn that it's generating. Okay, one more. This is from 781. And this, I forgot about this, but it's true. Jeff, and remember who was the leader of the bailout, the Black Lives Matter and Antifa rioters fund? It was Kamala Harris. That is very true. Remember in the summer of 2020? Who was effectively the leader of Black Lives Matter and Antifa? It was Kamala. She was the one that said, yeah, bail them all out of jail. Give money to the fund. She was the one. You remember what she said? BLM will not stop rioting, and they should not stop rioting. She was the one that said BLM and Antifa will have a seat at the table in the White House. She is BLM. She is Antifa. That's why she's screaming that Trump will be a fascist and will start putting millions of non-whites into internment camps. She's telling her people it's time to mobilize. It's time to get activated. Arthur in Chestnut Hill. Thanks for holding, Arthur, and welcome.
Thanks, Jeff.
Hi, Arthur.
Well, already in Georgia, where Trump needs to win, a judge is now going to block the hand counting of votes, which was a great victory for them because the irregularities in Fulton County last time, 97% of the votes in Fulton County couldn't be verified, but they allowed it anyway. And that's one of the most corrupt counties in the whole country, and leads to Republican losses. And they just got dealt a big blow. I don't know where that goes, but it was just announced, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention. In this country today, Jeff, we don't just have low information voters. We have no information voters, and we have don't care voters. That even if you point out the truth, even in black and white, it doesn't make any difference to them. And whatever Trump says, they never hear. They only hear what the interpretation of what Trump says. Because why? For years we've tolerated this media, which is not a media, and we've tolerated it, and because of that, this country is going down. The truth can never get out. It gets out on our program, on your program, and thank God for that. And I don't know how long that's going to be because, the FCC just passed a resolution that Soros can turn around and buy over 200 radio stations, and you know how that worked, how the DAs worked out for us. They're allowing a war criminal and a European criminal to buy radio stations in America, and I'm sure yours would be on the top of the list. That news, I suppose, didn't get out. Anyway, continuing on. The other day on CBS, I was disgusted with what I saw and heard. They had a racist, anti-Semite, anti-Israel, death to Israel author on there. And when he was questioned about the fact that in his book, everything was about death to Israel and death to the Jews, and there were two other black reporters on the morning CBS show. As a result of that, you would have thought that something would have happened, and there would be a big uproar over the fact that this guy was even allowed to be on the program. But no, CBS came after the reporter who very decently asked this question. This is the same as having Adolf Hitler going around on a book tour touting Mein Kampf. How are we allowing this in this country today, that one of the most decent group of people that have contributed so much to America, the Jewish people, are being persecuted? If anybody has to worry about internment camps, given the state of things in this country, they do. And I'm beside myself.
Arthur, look, I'm so happy you brought this up. I really am. You're talking about Ta-Nehisi Coates, as he calls himself. He's a hero on the left. He has written several bestsellers. He's got this new book out, and you're right. This could have been written by Hezbollah. This could have been written by Hamas. This could have been written by the mullahs, the ayatollahs in Iran. And in fact, Arthur, he didn't say it in that interview. He said it in a subsequent interview. He openly admitted, he said, if I was living in Gaza, I probably would have participated on October 7th myself. I literally said that. I would burn babies alive. I would be gang raping women. I would be cutting the throats of little Jewish children. No, that's what I would do. If I was living there, that's what I would do. And this guy is being praised by Gayle King on CBS News and Oprah Winfrey. She's buddies with Oprah. And he was Jewish. The guy that confronted him, DeKoppel, the one of the CBS co-hosts, he converted to Judaism, has an ex-wife and two children that live in Israel. And he just stated the obvious. By the way, and you notice, he gave this guy nothing but time to respond to all of his questions. He wasn't rude. He wasn't insulting. He wasn't hostile. Nothing. He just asked a few obvious pointed questions. One of them being, well, you could see this in any backpack of any extremist in the Middle East. Are you saying Israel doesn't have the right to exist? Are you saying the Israelis aren't surrounded by enemies who want to annihilate them? Like, you're leaving out all this important context. And for simply saying that, the ownership of CBS barreled down not on the guy calling for the mass murder and genocide of Jews, but for DeKoppel. Arthur, I've never seen anything like this. And by the way, Ta-Nehisi Coates, however you pronounce his name, do you know what he's really famous for? Look it up. Arthur, I'm telling you, you're not going to believe this. This is the great literary hero and champion of the left. A comic book. He's written a couple books, but what he's most famous for, the Black Panther comic book that led to the Black Panther movie, which was it made hundreds of millions of dollars, where he has this fictional African kingdom of Wakanda, in which African blacks have created a superior advanced civilization over Europeans and Americans and whites. He's all into black power. He's all into black nationalism. He is a Jew hater and an anti-Semite to his fundamental core. He is Louis Farrakhan with a pen. That's what he is. Farrakhan with a pen. A Jew hater like Farrakhan and an Islamist fellow traveler, just like Farrakhan. And no, this is now the hero among Democrats and the left. And he's so pathetic, he's such a snowflake, Arthur, that when DeCopel just challenged him intellectually on a few points, they had to push this guy to sensitivity training. They were trying to claim DeCopel was a racist for simply trying to refute and ask some serious questions to this obvious Jew hater. So they want to put him through re-education. Just simply for saying, are you saying Israel doesn't have the right to exist? Are you going to deny that they're surrounded by vicious genocidal terrorists who want to murder and annihilate all the Jews of Israel? Like, are we going to stand here and deny the truth? And for this, DeCopel is fighting for his job? And they made the poor guy grovel? I think he's done 20 mea culpas. All he's been doing since that interview, Arthur, is apologize. For what? For doing his job? So, Arthur, you're dead on. You're dead on. If any group should be fearing internment camps, believe me, it's the Jews. Final word to you, Arthur.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that nobody seems to have pointed out about October 7th. All those people that went in there to do that massacre, they were all Palestinians. They can say they were Hamas, but how do we know they were Hamas? They didn't wear Hamas uniforms. They didn't come in Hamas military vehicles, and all the barbarous Nazis and SS never took photos, while they were performing barbarous acts. They wanted to hide all the atrocities. But this group of Palestinians, because I don't know that they were Hamas, called their mother, took photos of the most barbaric acts ever. And yet we're supposed to turn around and reward these people with a state and a homeland. Nobody else wants to give them that homeland. And that's the biggest mistake that Israel ever made. If they give Gaza back to these people and they don't take the Palestinian West, they will have nothing but trouble for as long as that state exists, because they brought these people in.
Arthur,
but
Arthur, no, go ahead, please finish.
I didn't see any Hamas uniforms on October 7th. I saw a bunch of raving lunatics and evil people hell-bent on they must have...
No, that was, Arthur, that was savagery. Look, everybody uses the term Nazi. It's the most overused, abused term. Because if everybody's a Nazi, then no one's a Nazi. It's ridiculous. But this is really apt. It was a form of savagery on a scale what the Nazis did in World War II. There's no question. What they did on October 7th. There's no question. No question. And, you're right. And all you have to do is look at the opinion polls. Opinion polls in Gaza and the West Bank. Over 90% of Palestinians, 90%, say they supported the massacres of October 7th. Over 90%. That tells you everything you need to know. You cheer on that kind of genocidal mass murder? These kind of disgusting crimes? Horrific savagery? Barbarism on a scale that rivals what the Nazis did in World War II? An independent Palestinian state is a dagger aimed at the heart of the Jews and the heart of Israel. And any Israeli politician who pushes it is insane. Okay? I know why Biden's pushing it. I know why Obama's pushing it. I know why Kamala's pushing it. Because they hate the Jews, they hate the Jewish people, and they hate Israel. But why an Israeli politician would do it, you got to have your head examined. Arthur, as always, thank you so much for that call. Dave in Dunstable. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Dave.
Jeff, this country has had camps going for at least the last 20, 25 years. They're called school. They're re-educating our kids. They're changing history and teaching falseness to our kids. And the news media, you can call that, the thing. And as far as what Harris and Walz are preaching about Trump coming after Democrats, no, that's not what's happening, Jeff. What's happening is they're saying the quiet part out loud. They're going to come after us if they win, and they're going to do it with a gun. They're going to do it with a calculator and a pencil, and it's going to be the IRS. They're going to come after us with them. Anybody that's a Republican that voted for Trump, they're going to release them after us, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to try to put us in jail. Look at what they did with Trump with his taxes. He put something in the wrong column, and they want to give.
Well, Dave, look, I got something I want to share with the whole audience. Speaking of the IRS, you're right. And they didn't just go after Trump. They're going after the Kuhner man. That's right. They're coming after me. That story, your reaction next. On the great WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends. So yes, the Kuhner man is being targeted by the IRS. I was going to get into details, but then my wonderful wife texted me and said, Jeff, can you please shut up? Okay? You're just going to invite even more retaliation from the IRS. So let me just leave it at this. They're hounding the Kuhner man. They're persecuting the Kuhner man. Trust me when I tell you this. I'm not some gazillionaire. I'm not the ultra wealthy. They lied when they said about these 87,000 new IRS agents. No. That's just for the rich and the billionaires. And I came out and said, no. That's going to come after you and after me. Well, trust me, they're weaponizing the IRS already to start going after their political opponents. Now, as all of this is taking place, you've got Kamala now, I'm talking pushing the panic porn, sowing hysteria, fear, paranoia on a scale and a level we've never seen in the history of this country. Where was Donald Trump? This was one of the most magnificent performances I've ever seen. He went to Chicago. Okay, he went to Chicago at the Economic Club. And frankly, most of the people in the room were the country's corporate and economic elites. They were hostile to him. They don't like him. Most are not going to vote or support him. By the end of this interview with the editor-in-chief of Bloomberg, who, by the way, I don't know if you saw the interview, you want to talk about the epitome of a snotty, elitist, arrogant elitist. I think he's a Brit or whatever. His accent, I don't think, helped with his sort of condescending demeanor towards Trump the entire interview. John Micklethwaite, but anyway, you're wrong. Donald, you're wrong. Don't you know higher tariffs lead to lower growth and higher inflation? It's just basic economics. And Trump looked at him and said, you've been wrong your entire career. You've been wrong your entire life. Don't lecture me about tariffs. By the end of that interview, They gave him a standing ovation. He turned the entire room in his favor because he put in such a knowledgeable, dominant performance. And the part that struck me the most, and this is why I find this character assassination, this defamation against him now, that he's some kind of a Hitler. It is so the opposite of the truth, it's not even funny. Trump tells this story about how when he was president and said, look, I saw my job as protecting and defending the jobs and the wages of all Americans, the interests of all Americans. He said there were some American companies who were attacking me. They were not friends of mine, and they're doing business in France. And Trump says they're being discriminated against by the French government. The French government is imposing massive tariffs on these companies, which is going to cost us jobs and wages here in the United States. And he says, so he describes it. He goes, I get on the phone. And then he turns around and he looks at the audience and he says, you know, everybody says they love Trump's policies, but they don't like my personality. They don't like Trump. He said, did it ever occur to you that you can't have my policies without my personality? And he says, let me give you an example. I got on the phone and I spoke to French President Emmanuel Macron. And I said, I hear now you're going after some of our top companies in France. And he goes, I'm telling you, you better knock it off. And he starts, making fun of Emmanuel Macron. He starts imitating his voice. But Donald, no, it's already been passed in the legislature. There's nothing I can do about it. And Donald says, okay, you can't do anything about it. Well, here's what I'm going to do. You guys love your wine? You guys love your champagne? 100% tariff now. Every bottle of wine, every bottle of champagne coming into the United States. You want to put tariffs on our companies? We're going to put tariffs now on your companies and your products. No, Donald. No. Let me call you back. Give me 5 minutes. I call you back. And he goes, lo and behold, 5 minutes later, Donald, I spoke to my people. It's okay. We're going to deal with the national legislature. No more tariff on your company. Tariffs are a great tool or tactic to leverage other countries, to protect American jobs, save American jobs, and have people build plants and factories here in the United States. By the end of this interview, everybody looked around and said, he may be an SOB, but he's our SOB. He puts America and Americans first. 8:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, very, very quickly, because this was a very important interview with Bloomberg. You had the captains of industry, Wall Street elites, corporate elites in that room. It was at the Economic Club in Chicago. And the editor-in-chief of Bloomberg, again, a nitwit, really an arrogant, you want to talk about an arrogant, full of himself, elitist snob. So this guy, John Micklethwaite, and he keeps needling Trump throughout the entire interview. Jab after jab after jab. And in a nutshell, let me condense a long interview into 2 sentences. Micklethwaite is going on about tariffs. You can't stop that. But you're going to impose tariffs. You're going to impose tariffs. And they're going on about, this is going to kill economic growth. It's going to drive up inflation. It's going to lead to deficits. Oh, it's going to be a disaster. The sky is going to fall. How dare you impose tariffs? And Trump made the obvious point. Well, I did it during my first term, and the sky didn't fall. Inflation went down. The economy boomed. We brought back, hundreds of thousands of manufacturing industrial jobs back into the United States. We stopped getting ripped off and taken advantage of by countries like Mexico or China or the Europeans in particular, European car companies, who were circumventing our tariffs while imposing their tariffs on our cars and our people and our companies. Now, in a nutshell, here is essentially what Trump told him. That all of you in the so-called expert class, you've been wrong. You've been wrong. You've been wrong for the last 30 years. This entire neoliberal, free trade, open borders, globalist consensus among all of you so-called experts in the media and in the business elite and on Wall Street and in the ruling class in Washington, you have been wrong on everything. You pushed NAFTA. It was a disaster. You pushed China and the WTO and preferential trade treatment for China. You said it would make China a middle-class country that would democratize and liberalize. Remember those arguments? No. Bring China in. Trade with them more. Even if you have big trade deficits, it's going to make China more part of the international community. A much less aggressive, expansionist, dangerous country. He goes, it turned out to be the exact opposite. You've created a military and economic monster. You've outsourced millions, 5 to 7 million jobs, trillions of dollars of our wealth, our entire manufacturing industrial base. You outsourced it all. We don't make anything in this country anymore. You were wrong every step of the way. And now you're lecturing me? And then Trump made to me, and this was the argument you can tell that won the room. He said, look, the most beautiful word in the dictionary is tariff. Why? Because it's a brilliant tactic, a leverage to use against other countries so that they will invest in the United States, build factories in the United States, and treat our people, our workers, our companies, our interests fairly around the world. And he laid it out. He goes, look, you don't think they want to go and build a rival currency to the United States? He said, do you know what will happen to us if we lose our status as a reserve currency? We'll become a third world country. Now, let me tell you what I'm going to do day one when I'm president. I'm going to go to any country in the world that says, you want to abandon the U.S. dollar? That's fine. You want to join China? Because China wants to be now the yuan. They want that to be the international currency. They're making their play now to be the world's dominant economic superpower. And he goes, fine. You want to join the yuan? You want to abandon the dollar? That's okay. I'm going to impose 100% tariff on every good that comes into the United States. And he says, no one will join the yuan. They will stay with the U.S. dollar. So I'm not here to serve the global community. I'm not here to serve the quote-unquote markets. I'm not here to serve the globalists and the billionaires and the oligarchs. And then he points to everybody in the room. I don't care whether you vote for me or vote against me. I'm here to support your interests, your workers, American companies, American workers, American wages, American interests. He goes, you don't think Macron is defending France? You don't think the Saudi sheiks are defending Saudi Arabia? You don't think Xi Jinping is defending China? You don't think Putin is defending Russia? So who stands up for us? And in particular, ordinary American people. Who defends them? By the time he was done, literally, it was standing ovation, bravo, bravo. He won the entire room by the force of his ideas, by the force of his character, by the force of his patriotism. Now, that's what Trump did. And while he was doing this, Kamala is going on about Hitler, internment camps. Oh my God, he's going to put us all in jail. Leadership versus a loser. Patriotism versus despicable fear-mongering. Listen now to Trump. It was one of the best exchanges with the editor-in-chief of Bloomberg. Roll cut 5, Mike.
You're also talking about 10, 20% tariffs on the rest of the world. That is going to have a serious effect on the overall economy. And yes, you're going to find some people who will gain from individual tariffs. The overall effect could be massive.
I agree it's going to have a massive effect, positive effect. It's going to be a positive, not a negative.
Well,
let me just I know how committed you are to this, and it must be hard for you to spend 25 years talking about tariffs as being negative and then have somebody explain to you that you're totally wrong. It'll have a negative. It will have. I'll go a step further.
40 million jobs is a lot of jobs to rely on.
They're all coming back.
So, by the way, under him, they all came back, and they're going to continue to come back. Now, he gives an example. Listen to this. Roll cut 5A, Mike. Mike, 5A, please.
You're also talking about those are 40 million jobs. Those are 40 million jobs in America that rely on trade.
Are you ready? John Deere, great company. They announced about a year ago they're going to build big plants outside of the United States, right? They're going to build them in Mexico.
And you threatened them with tariffs and they stopped.
That's right. I said, if John Deere builds those plants, they're not selling anything into the United States. They just announced yesterday they're probably not going to build the plants, okay? I kept the jobs here.
There you go. I mean, look, I'm saying, do you want the jobs in Mexico or do you want the jobs in the United States? Now, I know why John Deere wants to create plants in Mexico. It's $3 a day labor. It's cheap labor. But then we're out of plants, we're out of jobs, we're out of factories, we get screwed. And plus, we can't build tractors anymore. We don't build anything. And Trump is saying, no, fine, you want to do it, hey, I'm not a dictator, unlike what the left says. I'm not going to prevent you. You want to go. 100% tariff on the way back in. You build in Mexico, you're not going to come in tariff-free, tax-free. What are you, crazy? No. 100% tariff. Oh, then you're not making money in Mexico. Well, then don't leave the United States. And that's what John Deere announced. We're going to keep the jobs, the factories, the tractors, the plants here, where they're paying people $25, $30 an hour, a living wage, puts food on the table, sends their kids to college. They pay taxes here. We keep our industrial base, our manufacturing here. That's leadership. That's what the globalist elites fear. He will put the interests of American workers and America first. Maria in Ludlow. Thanks for holding, Maria, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Good morning. How are you?
Maria, I'm very good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. But I'm calling because Miss Queen Buffoon over there, didn't she not, back in the day, not so long ago, did she not put all these black men in jail for smoking the marijuana?
That's right.
I
Yes.
believe she did.
Oh, yes. Thousands of them.
Exactly. So I'm assuming her values have changed. Now she wants legalize the marijuana because why? She's smoking the marijuana too. And remember when she said she's calling Hitler to President Trump?
Maria, I'm up against a break. Please, can you hang on, Maria? I want you to finish your thought. I want to ask all of you, will this fear-mongering campaign by Kamala work against Trump? Your calls next. 49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868. Let's go right back to Maria in Ludlow. Maria, you are on fire, saying, so Kamala Harris now goes on with Charlemagne the God and tells him she's got a plan to help black men. What is that plan? To legalize marijuana across the country, even though she locked up thousands of them when she was a district attorney and attorney general in California for smoking weed. And you were saying that this is the very same woman who has betrayed the black community over and over and over again. Please pick up where you left off.
So, I couldn't even remember Charlemagne's name because that's how important he is to me. But he is so blind to reality that I believe he needs to have his vision checked and get some serious bifocals. But my next point was, I'm sorry, I'm out of breath. I just dropped off my son in school. But my next point was, back in the day, she said that she learned that at a stroke of a pen that she could do, she could people in jail, mess up their livelihood, take away their children, do all that stuff. So for her to be calling President Trump Hitler, she loves power. She has the taste. She has it in her hands, and she wants to continue. So for her to be talking like that is completely absurd. And for people to believe her, it's even more mind-blowing to me. It's just, I don't understand how people can be so blind. Look at what she has said. Look at what she has done. She is not for no black people, nobody, no American person at all. She's in all for herself. She will say whatever to make it look nice and cute, and people will go, oh my God, first black woman, I'm going to vote for her. Think, people. Open your minds and think for yourselves. It's so sad. I am not an American-born person here. And people say, I can't believe you're not a Democrat. You're an immigrant. So that has nothing to do with it. I have a brain. I'm thinking for myself and for the better of for myself, for my country, and for my children. And she is not it.
Maria, I couldn't agree with you more. You're absolutely correct. And I think that's what she's preying on now, are all these low information voters, these Democratic sheeple. Look, what she's doing, it's really criminal on many levels, but she's inciting frantic panic. There's no other word. Terror, paranoia, hysteria, literally hysteria on her own people. Going on now about how Trump is going to bring fascism to America, round up millions and millions of non-whites, and he's going to put all of you in internment camps. And you got Tim Walz now going to college campuses. You know, I mean, these are, what are they, 18, 19, 20-year-old students? To me, I still consider many of them kids. And they see a vice presidential nominee. So they think, well, he's not going to lie to us. And he's like, he says he's coming after you. All of you. And they're like, what? What? Ah, you vote against him. He's going to put you in an internment camp. He's going to put you in jail. He's going to send the military after you. I mean, I'm sorry, but this is beyond despicable. This is sickening. And the media is just echoing it and repeating it. And again, where are the Republicans? Where are the conservatives in the media? Where's the opposition to any of this? Nowhere. And they just chuckle and roll their eyes and shrug their shoulders and go, what can you do? That's just Democrats being Democrats. Well, I got news for you, man. A, it's going to drive a lot of these Dems to the polls. That's number one. And number two, you know, you keep telling them this guy's Hitler, and they're going to start to believe it. So what happens on election night? What happens when he's inaugurated? This is going to tear our country apart. It is so reckless and irresponsible. It is such a pack of lies. It is so intentionally inflammatory. I've never, ever seen anything like this in the history of our country, which tells me she's looking at the polls and they're saying, Kamala, you're going down. This reeks of desperation on her part. And, you know, If you can't convince him to vote for you, persuade him to vote for you, then you ought to scare the living daylights, the bejesus out of them to vote for you. Thank you for that call, Maria. Victor in Maryland. Thanks for holding, Victor, and welcome.
Good morning, America's morning talk show host.
Thank you.
Go National. Now,
Victor, thank you. What do you make of all this, Victor? Is this, in your part of the country, in Maryland, which is, quite a blue state, is all this panic mongering, is all this panic porn, is it working? Are liberals saying the Fourth Reich is coming?
I haven't seen it among my neighbors. I just got out from having back surgery. I can tell you this as a side note. I had my tablet with me, and I told my Alexa girlfriend to play WRKO. The conservative nurses were interested and would take their time taking care of me, while the liberal nurses got in and got out as fast as they could.
Now, Victor, very quickly, my friend, how are you doing? How's your back?
It's still sore, but it was successful. I'm having physical therapy now at home, and a nurse.
You keep playing WRKO. You keep playing the Kuhner Report. Buddy, we're going to convert people one day at a time. Victor, take care of yourself, and thank you for that call, my friend. Verna in Arlington. Thanks for holding, Verna, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you, always. I just want to say thank you to Arthur and everybody that's called in this morning. Just wonderful messages, Larry. A couple of points and a question. My first important point is I'm really concerned and a little bit nervous about what they did on January 6th back in 2021, is that they had Antifa and Black Lives Matter, as you know and many people know, who dressed up with Trump gear and infiltrated the ranks. They were even there from the day before. I'm concerned that they're going to do that again and obviously try to blame it on Trump and Trump supporters and all those other things that they talk about, white nationalists, all this other garbage that they put out there. That's something I'm really concerned about. The other thing I wanted to mention is that there's a lot of Harris wall signs around the neighborhood, and I only see one house that has a Trump sign. And there was one house that I came across that actually had a sign out, and I just want to put it out there to pray for people like this, to write them a letter, whatever. There's a sign out there that says, "Not a loser, not a sucker and loser, veterans for Harris." And I was just so sad to see that I'm really considering writing a letter and putting it in there on their door. So I wanted to ask about that issue around what people will do when the election goes through and what happens with the violence that possibly can happen. The question I have is there anything going around to write in Jeff Deal's name for senator in place of Deaton?
I've heard, yes, there is. There's an effort out there to write in Jeff Deal. We've had people call into the show, and they're going to be, writing in Jeff Deal's name. So I think a lot of voters are not happy with Deaton. I know there was a debate last night with Elizabeth Warren. I didn't watch it. I'll be honest. I just didn't. I'm focused on the national election, and I'm going to get to this, I promise, not 2 minutes, because I have Dr. Grace coming on, but in the following segment, they're going to try to steal the election. There's no question now. The steal is on. They've been caught. They can't deny it anymore. They've been caught in Arizona. They're caught in Pennsylvania. They're caught in Wisconsin. I suspect now they're also trying to steal it in Michigan. Fulton County, big development there in Georgia. And just so that everybody knows, the Kamala Harris campaign, they are swimming in money. And part of that money is now being used to hire an army of lawyers. And what I mean by an army, I'm talking hundreds and hundreds of election lawyers. And they are on standby. They are now going to be suing, taking legal action all the way up to and past the date of the election. They are going to try to keep the count going after November 5th. Pennsylvania has already buckled. This to me is one of the most incredible stories I've ever read. So now Pennsylvania has come out. It's going to be a repeat of 2020, or they're going to try to make a repeat of 2020. Pennsylvania now says, oh no, we're going to be counting ballots for days after the election. Are you serious? So they're saying don't expect any results out of Pennsylvania on election night. This is going to take 2, 3, maybe 4 days to count all of the mail-in ballots. So it's obvious what's going on now. They're going to go to the well one more time. They're going to try to steal it one more time. And that's why I see my role as exposing this, unmasking this, and with God's help, trying to prevent it, or at least mitigate it enough so we can swamp the polls and pull off the greatest political comeback in American history. And speaking of someone who's an ideological soulmate of mine, my better half, my wonderful wife, Dr. Grace, putting liberals in their place, Grace Voto. She's on right now. We just posted a column of hers maybe a couple hours ago. It's a gem. Trust me when I tell you this. It's one of the most important columns I've read. It's titled, Democrats Insult Black Voters. Please read it. Pass it around to as many of your friends and family members as possible. It is posted on WRKO.com/Kuhner, WRKO.com/Kuhner, KUHN is a national ER. Dr. Grace putting liberals in their place. Congratulations on an outstanding, superb column. And welcome again to the Kuhner Report. Kamala Harris went on with Charlemagne the God on the Breakfast Club. It was an audio town hall. And she said that she's there to shore up black support. And she gave them a couple of reasons. 1, she's going to legalize marijuana. 2, forgive up to $20,000 in loans so black men can start up businesses. And basically, she played the race card throughout the entire interview. Did she do anything to pick up more black votes, and in particular, black men? What say you?
Jeff, I was absolutely disgusted, and there's no other word for it, disgusted by Harris on the Breakfast Club. First of all, when she came on, the host admonished her for being late, and she said, I'm just 40 seconds late. And then he said, well, you are black. I was shocked. She just laughed at that. That is a vicious black stereotype. She should have, right then and there, said, excuse me, do not belittle blacks as incapable professionals. Yet she didn't do that. She just laughed. And what is astonishing is...
Sorry. Just for the audience. So she's, 40 seconds or a minute late or whatever. And Charlemagne the God says to her, you know, you're late, I guess as a joke. She starts cackling and laughing. She goes, yeah, just 40 seconds. And then he makes a joke. Well, you're black or whatever, right? Like that's, how do you phrase it?
Well, you are black. Meaning it's to be expected that if you're black, you're going to be late.
Unbelievable.
And that's how the interview began. Honestly, Jeff, I am telling you, my jaw dropped. I'm like, did nobody just hear this? And she laughs in response. Now, you know, and the audience, I believe, knows, I was a professor at Howard University for 4 years teaching European and British history. No student of mine who walked into a class late ever said, excuse me, Dr. Voto, you know I'm late, I'm black, ha, ha, ha. As though you can excuse somebody for being late because they're black? They had enough dignity and self-respect never to say anything like that. And no student of mine ever dropped their G's. No colleague ever dropped their G's. I mean, does Harris not think that black people are worthy of her proper pronunciation? Are they not worthy of her speaking the English language correctly? Does she not think blacks speak proper English? I was outraged. And then she talks about what is the priority for blacks? Legalizing marijuana? So this is the agenda that she's rolling out now for black people? Has nobody realized how insulting this is? She's presenting black men as though they're obsessive drug users. That's a stereotype. Where is the liberal outrage? I'm outraged as a professor and a fellow citizen, and as someone who has many black friends who are upright citizens of this country. Don't besmear all black people as drug users. And then she says she wants to give them opportunities in the cannabis industry. I have not met a single black voter who says that that's their primary concern right now. That's a
Did she really say
stereotype.
That she wants to create more opportunities for black men in the cannabis industry?
In the national cannabis industry, yes.
What a loser. She's such a loser. Okay, so like basically what? All blacks are stoners? All blacks are, hey, you want to grow weed? Hey, my fellow brothers, hey, we're going to get you a job, hey, and do the little bit of the, the puff.
I am outraged. Never have I heard, not recently nor in my time as a professor, that, legalizing marijuana is a top black concern. I mean, that's ridiculous. And there was another piece that was published. I encourage everybody to read this. This was published by Nina Turner in Newsweek, and she took Obama to task. It's called Obama is Blaming Black Men for the Democratic Party's Failure. And she said, listen, Obama's trying to tell black men that they're misogynistic? No. The Democratic Party has failed black men. They feel ignored. They're concerned about their wages. They are concerned about the criminal justice system. They are concerned about the economy, about jobs. And they don't think that the Democratic Party does enough for them. Those are legitimate concerns. Don't stand there and belittle black men and say just because they're not supporting Harris, they're misogynists. And Obama was like scolding them like they're little children. Do they not realize how insulting this is? Honestly, if there's a black listener out there in Kuhner country, please call in and weigh in, because I feel that the Democratic Party does not defend the dignity of black people.
Dr. Grace, when everything is said and done, do you think after this interview with Charlemagne the God, do you think that in any way she picked up more black votes? Or maybe got black men to second guess their decision to vote for Trump? Do you think she moved the needle in any way in her direction?
Well, they seem skeptical. You even had a church leader that came on and said, we really don't hear from any of you. You don't really come to our churches. And the implication was, you don't really pay any attention to us, but you do come around during election season. Look, they are on to the Democratic game. My concern, though, is that the fear-mongering might overtake some of this, because what she says is, oh my gosh, Donald Trump is going to suspend the Constitution and suspend some of your rights. And so although many black citizens, they know they're being ignored by the Democrats, the question is, do they fear that somehow their rights are going to be taken away by Donald Trump? So this is the game Democrats play. They don't actually attend to the needs of black people, but they just try to scare them into keep voting for them.
Well, Grace, this gets to the heart of the issue of today's show. She and Tim Walz now are going on about Donald Trump, saying that he is going to put millions and millions of Democrats into internment camps, that he is the definition of fascism, he is going to bring fascism to the United States, and that especially non-whites, you're going to see them being put into internment camps the way Japanese Americans were in World War II. That you're going to see Trump establish a brutal police state, a brutal dictatorship, and unleash the military to start jailing and imprisoning journalists, judges, Democrats, voters, anybody who disagrees with him. I've never seen anything this incendiary, inflammatory, frankly outrageous, sick. Really, this is sick in my entire life. But that's what she's peddling now. Are they going to buy it?
This is the worst kind of demagoguery that is very destructive to a democracy. It's the kind of demagoguery our founding fathers feared might occur. And I think, Jeff, that black voters in particular have to stand up to the Democratic Party and say, stop treating us like little children. Stop the fear-mongering, because when all you've got is fear, it means you haven't delivered anything for us, nor will you deliver anything for us. So I want to see what you actually produce, real care. And unless I see real care, I don't buy a single thing that you say.
We've got 1 minute left. Leave aside now the black vote. In general, is this panic porn and fear-mongering, this now, warning of the rise of a Fourth Reich, and this American Hitler coming up from the ashes, is this going to work? Is this going to scare women, undecided voters, independent voters into voting for Harris over Trump? 1 minute.
I think that on the margins, it will have an effect, and that's what she's going for right now. She's doing micro-targeting. Different shows attract different people and get a couple of dummies to buy into her nonsense. On the margins, it will work. Otherwise, she wouldn't do it.
We've been talking with Grace Vuoto, Dr. Grace, putting liberals in their place. Check out her latest column. It's absolutely brilliant. Democrats insult black voters. It's up on WRKO.com/Kuhner. KUHN is in national ER. WRKO.com/Kuhner. She eviscerates Kamala Harris, and she eviscerates her plea to try to get, and her outreach to black voters, exposing it for the sham and fraud that it is. Dr. Grace, thank you so much. We will have you on same time, same place next week. God bless. Okay, coming up next, the Democrats. The steal is on. How are they attempting to steal it? That next. 921 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, buckle up, Kuhner country. Here it comes. And I'm not going to be letting up now for the next 20 days until the election. So I'm going to continue to be exposing, unmasking, discussing election fraud, voter fraud, corruption that the Democrats now are clearly engaged in. It is absolutely indisputable. So I want to give a big hat tip to Breitbart for first breaking this story, and in particular to the Public Interest Legal Foundation. Let me repeat the name. The Public Interest Legal Foundation. They have now released shocking video footage as well as all of this documentation and proof. Here is what is now taking place in the key swing state of Arizona. Basically now the election comes down to 6 or 7 battleground states. Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. I would argue New Hampshire as well. But for some reason, both campaigns are not focusing on New Hampshire, which I think is a mistake, but let that go, okay? Let's just stick to the 7 battlegrounds. Who wins those 7 battlegrounds, or a combination of the states within those battleground states, will win the election. It's no longer about the popular vote. It's about who can get to 270. According now to the Public Interest Legal Foundation, they have now gotten a hold of the voter rolls in Arizona, and in particular, voter registration forms. Now, I warned everybody about this about maybe 3 weeks ago when we had an election fraud expert talking about phantom voters casting phantom ballots. Well, here it is. Here it is in black and white. Hundreds upon hundreds. Now, they suspect thousands, but they've only caught hundreds of Arizona voters. Listen now to this. Have commercial businesses listed as their primary residence on their voter registration forms. That is illegal. That's illegal. You can't list your business, anyone's business, as your place of residence. It has to be where you live. Now, furthermore, these now are the kind of businesses or places that are now being claimed as addresses registered as they're registering people to vote. These are non-citizens who are now claiming, yeah, I live there. Here's my address. I put down my name. I sign. And they claim this is where I live. Well, okay, let me tell you where they say they're living. Strip clubs. This has been documented now. They've tracked down. They go, here's a person's name, register to vote, sign it. This is the address. They go to the address. It's a strip club. Gas stations, strip clubs, abortion clinics, restaurants, high schools. You want to know how brazen it is in Arizona? The Arizona Cardinals training facility. You know, where the NFL professional football team, where they train. They go, yeah, I live there. That's my address. So what that means in plain English, they're now registering non-citizens in phantom addresses, phony addresses, to create now phantom voters. So you can't tell. Nobody's checking. Nobody's doing an audit. Nobody's being transparent. So, just say, Jeff Kuhner. They put down Jeff Kuhner, going to make up an address now, 100 Johnson Street in Phoenix, Arizona. Well, actually, what's 100 Johnson Street? It's a so-called gentleman's club. Mike, we're early, Mike. Mike, we're early. We still have another minute. Johnson Street is a strip club. Jeff Kuhner doesn't live in the strip club. Jeff Kuhner can't vote from the strip club. But Jeff Kuhner is a non-citizen. He's either an illegal or he's on some kind of a work permit, but he's not a citizen. He's not eligible to vote. That's how they're getting them registered. That's how they give out these phantom ballots. That's how they get these voters to so-called cast these ballots on behalf of the Democrats. According to the Public Interest Legal Foundation, they now say that something needs to be done. According to them, they have found voters are being registered, abortion clinics, gas stations, liquor stores, vacant lots, schools, a smoke shop, a bank, fast food chains, golf courses, roller rinks, bars. Where are the Republicans? Where is the RNC? Greg WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me just quickly wrap this up and go right back to the blazing phone lines. So, they've now got him dead to rights. Okay, there's no question. The only question that remains is how many of these phantom voters have been registered. This is now Arizona, according to the Public Interest Legal Foundation. So they've got them registered at bars, restaurants, gas stations, strip clubs, vacant lots, roller rinks, abortion clinics, schools, you name it. Now, what is remarkable is that the head of PILF, Public Interest Legal Foundation, came out and said, quote, this is a pervasive problem throughout the state of Arizona. Let's hope Arizona does something without having to be sued. Apparently, the Arizona Secretary of State, Adrian Fontes, he's supposed to fix this. Their voter rolls are dirty. They have people registered who are clearly non-citizens, who are being illegally registered at commercial businesses to vote. Now, we're talking now rampant corruption and voter fraud, and this is exactly what they did in 2020. This is how they get illegals and non-citizens to vote. You register them in these phony phantom addresses, places that aren't places of residence. They're just some kind of an establishment. The Secretary of State, obviously a Democrat, wink, wink, doesn't want to clean any of this up. Why? Because they're all voting for the Democrats. That's their vote stealing machine. That's the voter fraud that they have now entrenched, not just in Arizona, but in states all around the country. Now, what the Public Interest Legal Foundation was able to do is that they saw the exact same thing, same voter registration illegalities in Clark County, Nevada. Remember, Nevada, another big battleground state. And they said, holy shamoly, same thing there. Suddenly, we're finding all these people being registered to vote. Strip clubs. For some reason, they love putting them up at strip clubs. Strip clubs, casinos, at the Harry Reid International Airport. You can't make this up. So they're claiming people have a residence at the freaking airport to get them registered to vote. Smoke shops, gas stations, all over. Now, in the state of Nevada, the Public Interest Legal Foundation pressed the Clark County Registrar, Lorena Portillo, saying, you got to clean up the voter rolls or else we're taking you to court and you're going to be sued and you're going to be in big trouble. They succeeded in their lawsuit. They forced the Clark County Registrar to investigate these illegal, faulty voter registrations, and they were removed from the voter rolls. That was in Nevada. So they caught him in Nevada, and they acted in time. In Arizona, it's now 3 weeks before the election. First of all, I don't know if you have the time, number one. Number two, this is again what the head of the Public Interest Legal Foundation said. Quote, I hope something in Arizona is done before the election. Now, I'm not trying to bash or criticize the Public Interest Legal Foundation. They seem like a wonderful group. They're doing the Lord's work, exposing and unmasking and uncovering all this. But hoping that the Democrats do the right thing, saying, please, please, pretty please, with a cherry on top, investigate and purge and clean these voter rolls. They're not going to do it. I'm sorry, it's wishful thinking. Either you force them to do it or they won't do it. Now, here is my fear. This is my concern now. And this is like a 5-alarm fire. I'm ringing the bell. And with this caveat, I don't know if they've registered enough people to steal the election. I don't know. Trump has a good lead in Arizona. They need to steal a lot of votes. So they got to have a lot of people registered at a lot of businesses and airports and the Arizona training facility, Arizona Cardinals training facility. Okay. A lot of strip clubs, a lot of restaurants, a lot of gas stations. But this is my fear. They're going to do in 2024 what they did in 2020, which is steal the election and then blank you. Sue me after the election. You won't have standing. In other words, good luck trying to stop us after the election has been stolen. That's my fear. And that's what they may end up doing in Arizona. That's why if you're going to move, you've got to move before the election, not after the election. We saw in 2020, the Supreme Court won't take this up. The Democrat Secretary of State in Arizona is not going to take this up after the election. Why would they? Arizona is a pivotal battleground state. They're not going to kiss away all those electoral college votes and give it to Donald Trump. Once it's stolen, it's gone, baby. It's gone. Now, Fulton County in Georgia, very quick. That's where Atlanta is. That's where all the election corruption and fraud that took place in 2020. The heart of it is Fulton County. They also have, very similar, people being registered at strip clubs and restaurants and all kinds of businesses, vacant lots even. Phantom voters casting phantom ballots. Now, in an unbelievable ruling, a Superior Court judge in Fulton County, listen now to this, ruled yesterday that even if a member of the Fulton County Election Board spots and sees, catches voter fraud, voter errors, election corruption, they still must certify the election. Let me repeat that. Even if they catch them casting illegal ballots, phantom voters, phantom ballots, illegals are voting, it doesn't matter. You must certify the election results. And then, according to the judge, after the results have been certified, then if you want to challenge the results, you can go to court. Well, now we're just repeating 2020 all over again. So first you let them steal, and then after the election, good luck, see you in court. They're trying to steal the election in Arizona. That is now incontestable. They're trying to steal the election in Georgia. That is now incontestable. They were trying to steal it in Nevada. That is now incontestable. I want to know what's happening in Pennsylvania. I want to know what's happening in Wisconsin. I want to know what's happening in Michigan. I want to know what's happening in North Carolina. And I sure as hell want to know what's happening up north in New Hampshire. Because I guarantee you, I'll bet you the best steak at the best steakhouse of your choice, with all the trimmings, that if they're doing it in Arizona, and they're doing it in Nevada, and they're doing it in Georgia, they're doing it in New Hampshire. That you can take to the bank. Now, the time to raise this issue, and I mean scream bloody murder, is now. To scream from the high heavens is now. Where are the Republicans? Where's Fox News? They keep touting this stupid interview with Kamala Harris yesterday, today. Where is the conservative so-called media? Where is the Republican National Committee? With all due respect, where is the Trump campaign? Kamala Harris has hundreds of lawyers at her disposal, and they're waging lawsuit after lawsuit. Now is the time to deploy your army of lawyers and start challenging this right now in Arizona and make it the front page story all over that state. People are being registered to vote in commercial businesses and establishments. Hell, in freaking abortion clinics and strip clubs, for God's sake. And you're going to tell me this election's on the up and up? Sound the alarm bell now. Let the American people know now. Put the Democrats on the defensive now. Expose them now. Shame them now. Because after November 5th, it's too late. Agree, disagree. And this story is going to continue. I'm going to pick it up tomorrow, after tomorrow, I promise. I'm not letting go. This is now the issue of the campaign. Okay, they're trying to steal it from right underneath our noses. We've got to block them, Kuhner Country. 9:50 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Bruce in Woburn. Thanks for holding, Bruce, and welcome. the moon bats are howling today, my friend. No question about it.
Well, Jeff, I have a couple of points to make. One is we got to stop them while they're doing this illegally, all this stuff that they're doing, because they're going to try to pull what they did in 2020. And the other thing is Kamala Harris smoking crack with Biden's son. She sounded like she was like not from this world, like she was drunk or incoherent. Am I wrong?
No, Bruce, look, it's an open secret. She, likes the drinky. She likes the bottle. This has been widely documented. She's a heavy drinker. People say she's an alcoholic. She's clearly been a longtime pot smoker, an abuser of drugs. And that's why, by the way, Donald Trump yesterday said, I want her to do a cognitive test. He goes, I'm telling you, she doesn't make sense. The way she speaks, the way she thinks, her mannerisms, there's something about her that's not quite right in the head. And he believes that longtime alcohol and drug abuse has damaged her brain. And I think there's no question. You can clearly see it in the answers that she gives and the stuff that comes out of her mouth, in the way she behaves. I think there's something seriously wrong with this woman. And my theory is, and I know I'm right, because I've known people like this. It's not, we're not talking about using pot once in a while or, on the weekends or having a couple of drinks or whatever. We're talking about systemic, long-term, serious alcohol and drug abuse and what that does to your body and especially what it does to your mind. So I think you're absolutely right, Bruce. There's no question. The woman is a drunk. She's a lush and she's a pothead at a minimum. At minimum, she's a lush and a pothead. And I think that explains so much of her and her campaign. What say you, Bruce?
I think she's trying to reach out to the people that are just like her, but she thinks that it's okay to talk to those people the way she talks to them and tries to convince them that we're the bad people. We aren't the bad people. We want things to be the way they should be, not the way she wants them to be. And that's just, she's out there like Pluto. She's in another atmosphere, Jeff.
Well, look, Bruce, you're right. You're a normal person. I'm a normal person. 99.9% of this audience are normal people. And if you look at a normal American, I don't care, white, black, brown, Asian, young, old, male, female, gay, straight, whatever, I don't care. And you see a bunch of SS stormtroopers and you stand there and say, oh my God, this is, the modern day Nazi movement, then you're sick in the head. You're really honestly sick in the head. Now, to be honest with you, I know she doesn't believe what she's saying. I know she doesn't. Because when she says it, 2 minutes later, she's cackling and laughing and cracking jokes. I know the media doesn't believe it. Here, CNN, all morning, just to give you an example. They've been running with this whole Trump is Hitler, he's going to put millions of people in internment camps, the enemy within, blah, blah, blah. And then they're also doing puff pieces on the Menendez brothers. And how there's new evidence coming out from the Menendez case. And, and maybe we'll just overturn the conviction. And so they're sensationalizing a murder that, these two brothers allegedly, were convicted of killing their parents. So they're cracking jokes, they're laughing, and they're talking about a sensational murder case that happened, 30 years ago? Well, if you really believe Trump is the next Adolf Hitler, and he's going to put millions and millions of Democrats and, everybody at CNN is going to an internment camp and they're all going to go to jail and be locked up and put behind bars. You wouldn't be running stuff on the Menendez brothers, or whatever. They're always some kind of puff piece there. So, they're advocating or selling. I wouldn't. Would you? I mean, honestly, if you or I were saying, no, listen, really, internment camps are coming. We're all going to go to jail. You think I'd be like, love you, my favorite chips, Doritos. Charlemagne, you're funny. No, you're funny. No, you're funny. So their reaction belies what they're saying. Everything they do belies what they're saying. To me, what's grossly irresponsible, I'm thinking of the Bills in Sudbury, the Bens in North Andover, the Chris's in Gloucester. Bruce, they're not right in the head. These are serious, low-information voters. They believe the garbage that's coming out of her mouth. And that could be very dangerous. And I believe that's ultimately how they're convincing people to steal and engage in voter fraud. Hitler is coming. Register them in strip clubs. Vote early, vote often. Bye-bye.